All right, good morning. I have my friend, Dr. Michael Livingston, and I guess I've known you now for 15 years, maybe 15 years in practice. We both practice at Baptist Hospital, and he has just a great testimony, and I have enjoyed getting to know more details today, but Dr. Livingston is an OBGYN as well, and I was telling him the first time I knew he was a believer was when I heard about and saw a painting in his office. It's called, he tells me, the Chief of the Medical Staff, and it's a picture of a surgeon in surgical scrub, and then
operating room.
Jesus behind him.
Jesus behind him.
And I was like, wow, that's a great impression to know that the great physician is behind you.
Right.
So where did you grow up, Dr. Livingston?
I grew up in a small town west of Vicksburg, about 15 minutes west of Vicksburg, called Tallulah, Louisiana.
Tallulah, Louisiana.
Big population of 16,000 at the time.
All right. And you were just a normal, happy little boy running around in Tallulah, Louisiana.
Running around in Tallulah.
With your brother. You have one brother, right?
I had one brother. Wasn't running around with him, but running around. He's 2 years younger, so that was a big age gap.
with your friends, huh?
And it was before Interstate 20 came through.
Right.
Yeah.
When you could run around.
You couldn't run around.
And get into trouble. And you said when you were 5 years old, what happened one hot day?
When I was about 6 or 7, running around outside, playing all day, probably wasn't eating, probably wasn't hydrating, came in like 6 or 7 and collapsed on the floor at home. And probably wasn't very arousable. So my mother was scared and worried. Yeah. Put me in the car, rushed me over to Madison Parish Hospital, stuck an IV in my arm, and all of a sudden, gee, I'm revived.
So this was your first medical experience.
First medical experience. I thought that was remarkable. Gee.
Wow, this hydration works. So instead of being scared of medicine, you were like, this is really helpful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that made an impression on you.
It made an impression. Yeah, it did.
And your mother was a teacher.
Yes. Yeah, she taught home economics at my high school.
And a long line of teachers in the family.
Yes.
Grandmother, and you said uncle,
aunts, all in Tallulah. Yeah.
That's great. And then your dad was a foreman from, you said McDonnell Douglas.
From McDonnell Douglas, working on the aircraft, big carriers. I think he was the part of the plane with the nose. He was overseeing that connection. So
growing up in Tallulah, I guess your mom being a teacher, she had a lot to say about your education through the years. And
she did.
Was she strict on your homework and getting things done?
She was, and I was kind of strict on myself. I wasn't, when I wouldn't go out to play, and I knew that I was going to go to college, probably Southern University, where she had gone, my uncle had gone, my aunt had gone.
So there was never a question. That's where you would probably go.
Probably.
And that's where you did go.
Where I did go.
Southern in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
And is all that time you still knew you wanted to be a doctor?
Going from my junior to my senior year in high school, I attended an engineering program at Southern University, and so that summer, engineering, I like math. But coming back my senior year, getting back into the sciences, medicine took over again.
You loved it, and you had a great experience at Southern. You said some of a great group of friends that have all done incredible things in life, business and medicine.
A core group of science majors, biology majors, chemistry majors who,
super smart.
Super smart. Super smart.
And then you applied to and got into Meharry and Nashville for medical school.
For medical school, right.
And what was that like? Whew. Crazy.
I graduated, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. I asked Dr. Livingston when was the hardest part of your life? He said medical school. It was all a blur.
It's all a blur.
I agree with that statement. And you said at that time you came to know about this National Health Service Corps. Tell about that.
National Health Service Corps was paying for my medical education after finishing Southern, getting accepted to medical school, thinking about how I'm going to pay for this, found out about the National Health Service Corps. And so for each year of medical school support, I had to in turn dedicate a year of service to an underserved area of need.
Right. So you were committed after medical school to that, to follow your residency, right?
Correct, yes.
And what residency, why did you decide OBGYN?
In medical school, third year, my first rotation was OBGYN.
First one.
Very first one. And it was a happy feel. It was patients came in pregnant, happy about being pregnant. You rendered a service, delivered a baby, be it vaginally or C-section. I love surgery.
Mm-hmm.
You accomplish a goal. Hysterectomy, you accomplish a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And they went home happy.
It is generally happy, yes.
Generally happy. And no issues.
And so that took you to Michigan, to Providence Hospital for residency. And you had a good experience there with
great experiences there. Community hospital, a lot of patients, a lot of vaginal surgery, a lot of just great.
And then after that, you came to practice through that health service in Mobile, Alabama, for 4 years.
For 4 years.
And worked a lot with South Alabama.
South Alabama, yes.
And
that was a great experience. And they paid well.
And then your bride wanted you at that point to take her back home to Texas, right?
And to go back home to Texas, yeah.
And where did y'all meet?
We met
Mobile or before?
Met in Houston at a wedding.
Oh, okay.
A classmate, she was ahead of me in medical school.
Okay. And they
Houston.
Fixed you up.
I tell you.
So you went to Houston to private practice there.
Private practice in Houston.
And a little girl, Chelsea, was born.
Chelsea was born, yes.
Who now is an ophthalmology resident.
Now an ophthalmology
following her
resident.
Dad's footsteps in medicine. That's great. That's great. So a little stint in Houston, and then of 3 years, and then
moved to Jackson.
So through friends and connections, you
friends and connections
were brought here,
which is closer to my hometown, Tallulah.
And at that time, you were still checking on your mom and things like that. Right. Yeah. So and you've been in Jackson ever since.
Been in Jackson
and
ever
you
since.
said that was 2001.
1998.
Okay. And what has your practice been like here in Jackson through the years?
You know, if all of the patients I've delivered would remember that I do more than just deliver babies, I would have a huge GYN population.
That's right.
They just think, oh, you just deliver babies, y'all.
That is true.
Pregnant again, go see Dr. Livingston. Well, what about the other years?
What about the other years? You do the whole
I do the whole gamut.
That's true. They kind of do get pigeonholed to that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this about Dr. Livingston, but he sings in the choir, and he is president of the choir at Mount Zion Church, right? Mount Zion.
New Hope.
New Hope. What is Mount Zion?
Mount Zion was in Baton Rouge.
In Baton Rouge. Okay. I had the churches wrong. So New Hope.
Yeah.
So musically talented.
I sing solo.
You sing solo?
Solo that you can't hear me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I love it. So you have a strong faith and a strong church community as well. And you have twins.
Twins, boy and girl.
Boy and girl now.
11th grade.
And they're obviously outstanding as far as so smart. I've met them both.
Thank you.
And Jonathan and Jessica, and you said Jonathan is considering medicine, but maybe through the Air Force Academy.
Air Force Academy.
So that's exciting. And Jessica, possibly dental school and orthodontics.
And orthodontics, yes.
Which my kids had no idea as a junior in high school career, so I'm impressed that they have that. But I ask you, when you saw God move the strongest in your life and walk you through things, what was your answer?
When I reflect back on it, it's been all my life. When there's been one set of footprints in the sand and you think you're walking along, no, God's been carrying me.
Right.
Every day.
See all the ways He's opened doors. And
Right. And God can open a door that no one can close, and close a door that no one can open. And He's done that for me throughout my life.
And your advice to your kids, what do you were saying, what kind of advice do you give to them? Pearls of wisdom from Dr. Livingston.
Pearls of wisdom. My advice to my kids. To just stay true to who they are and keep their faith and keep living right and treating people right.
And along those lines, Dr. Livingston's very well respected in the community and with his patients and staff. So I asked him, what are people going to remember you? What is your legacy? Or what would you want that to be? What would you want people to say about you?
If there's one thing they could remember me, that would be, here lived Dr. Livingston, who happened to be a follower of Christ, who was a follower of Christ, who happened to be a physician.
You got your order right, don't you? Priorities. And I asked Dr. Livingston how we can incorporate faith into medicine. It was really along those same lines.
Faith in the medicine. We should always just remember when we are dealing with patients, what would we want for ourselves? What would we want for our loved ones? Any patient, just think, is this the same treatment that you would give to your mother, to your father, to your brother, to the closest person to you? Is this the same type of care you would be rendering?
Absolutely. The golden rule, right?
Golden rule.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and how Christ would have us do. And I asked your favorite verses, and I'm going to just read those. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight.
That's true. Yeah. If we just trust in the Lord, lean not unto our own way or the world's way of thinking and doing, and and he will make it happen for you. He would keep you centered on what's important and what's not.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Livingston. I
Thank
appreciate you
Thank
sharing
you.
today. All right.